guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is a sequel to a video I have already made. I made a video a while back where I compared or contrasted the Interview with the Vampire movie and the book. Today I'm going to be doing the TV show and the book. And if you would like a third video where I compare the movie and the show, I could do that too. I watched the movie and then I read the books. And once I read the books, I went, oh my god, they should have done this, 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 and this. Then the show came into view and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna watch it and judge it because now I read the books. So now I have more knowledge. I've seen the movie, I've read the books, I know things. So then I watched the show and honestly, I love it. I think it's a great show. They changed a good bit, but they also have things that are from the book exactly. So they changed a few things, but then had things that the movie didn't, which I think was nice. You can't just carbon copy it. I mean, you can. But, you know, adding a little bit of flair to it, I don't see a problem with it. I'm not a super fan who's like, it's not the same, oh my god, ah! You know, I think adding a little bit of change, a little bit of your own style to it is fine. You know, as long as the overarching main story is the same and the characters are dramatically different, I don't see a problem with it. So today I'm going to be talking about the differences between the TV show and the books. I've been doing this quite a lot lately. My Vampire Academy one actually popped off a little bit and I was like, wow, this is great. So if you guys want more content like this, I totally can because I obsess over vampire things. I have a problem. So if you guys want to see me comparing the books the shows or movies are based on to each other, I totally can. So let's get into it. The Interview with the Vampire series versus the books. The first one takes place in the 1970s in San Francisco. Louis is being interviewed by the boy, as he's called in the first book, or Daniel, as he's called in the rest of the books, in a crusty apartment using tape recorders. The show takes place in 2020 in Dubai, and instead of being their first interview, this is actually their second. So the San Francisco interview was their first one. This is their second interview, 40 years later, 40 plus years later, in Dubai, in a very fancy apartment that Louis has. I mean, he has a freaking assistant or butler or whatever Rasheed is. Some of the major changes from the books to the show is the characters. Lestat is exactly the same. He looks and is basically the same person. Louis is quite different. In the books, it takes place in 1791. That's where it first starts. Louis is an indigo plantation owner. In the show, it takes place in 1910. And Louis is a brothel owner, where you can gamble, and it's a brothel. One of those type of buildings in the red light district. 1900s, New Orleans was party central. That shit, a lot of places were like that, with speakeasies and, you know, drinking and gambling. And so I think adding vampires to that era, perfect era to do it. I mean, 1800s, you expect vampires, your aristocratic vampire, but the type of vampire where it's party all the time, that fits pretty well. That fits pretty well. Along with Louis' change, a few other characters changed as well, including Claudia. Claudia in the books is a 6-year-old little girl who gets trapped in a 6-year-old body, and then her mind grows to be an adult. In the show, they aged her up a bit. She's played by an 18-year-old actress, but I believe she's supposed to be 14. Aging her up just a bit. She's still young, she's still a kid, but she's not 6. Having a 6-year-old play a role like that, quite difficult. In the original movie, they had Kristen Dunst play Claudia, and she was 12. So, you know, similar age range, especially because when her mind grows older, there's sexual things involved, and you can't have a 6-year-old. I mean, you could. I don't know if a 6-year-old would be a good choice for that. She also has a one-sided love relationship with Louis, which would also be awkward for a 6-year-old. But here we are. And with Claudia, combined with her character change, is how she was turned into a vampire. In the book, Claudia is turned by Lestat because of Louis. Louis runs off, finds Claudia next to her dead mother from disease and loses control and almost kills her. When he gets back to the apartment, Lestat has brought her there and basically turns Claudia as leverage against Louis, like, you can't leave me now, ha 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 ha. In the show, the red light district is basically on fire. Everything is burning down. And he hears Claudia crying in one of the buildings on fire, so he runs in like Superman, breaks down the door, and saves her. And he begs Lestat to turn her. So in both versions, Lestat does turn Claudia, but for different reasons. In the book, Lestat turns Claudia to trap Louis, basically baby trap him. In the show, Louis begs Lestat to turn Claudia. Lestat doesn't even want to do it. I think it still has the same effect, the idea that she's the glue that's hopefully going to hold their toxic relationship together before it finally cracks and realizes it was just a band-aid, it wasn't going to fix anything. There's also Daniel, as I mentioned earlier. In the book, Daniel is a young breakthrough reporter who's like, this is his big break. He's interviewing a vampire with cassette tapes in a 1970s crusty apartment in San Francisco. In the show, he's much older. This is their second interview. He's much older, and at the end of his career, rather than being a breakthrough reporter who's can't wait to get started, he's near the end. And he has Parkinson's, which is not great. Especially because this takes place during the pandemic, which I think was a great ad. They could have just ignored the pandemic altogether, but I think adding that idea that death is everywhere was a very interesting take on the situation, and I think it really added to the story. It will be interesting to see how that plays out, because Daniel, goes looking for Lestat to become a vampire, and then he runs into Armand, and eventually Armand does turn to Daniel, well, because of alcohol poisoning, but he does turn Daniel. So it'll be interesting to see if that even happens, because, well, Daniel is older, but that doesn't mean he can't become a vampire. It'll just be interesting, because he has Parkinson's, so it's quite possible that he goes to a vampire to try and turn him to not die from Parkinson's. But I don't know. As of recording this, only 4 episodes are released, so we don't know much about what's going to happen with Daniel yet. But the show has been renewed for a 2nd season. Yes! So maybe we'll find out this season, maybe we'll find out next season. I don't know. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. They could just eliminate that storyline entirely, or they could just change it up and be that he wants to become a vampire to get rid of his Parkinson's. I don't know. Another interesting piece that I talked of earlier is that Louis in the TV series has an assistant or a companion named Rasheed. He basically acts kind of like a butler, like he helps Daniel, tells him where to go, tells him, hey, you should read this. He takes care of Louis, basically like his assistant. I'm wondering what their true relationship is. Is it just an assistant-boss situation? Is it more? Rasheed has mentioned that Louis is like a god. So is he a worshiper? I don't know. I have not seen much interaction between Rasheed and Louis other than, simple like boss-assistant type interactions. So it's quite possible that's all it is. Maybe there's something more there. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more about it. One of the major changes is how Louis becomes a vampire. In the books, Louis's brother falls off a balcony and Louis blames himself. He becomes suicidal, like he just wants to die. He doesn't want to live anymore. And Lestat finds him in this state and turns him for money and land, but also, I think, to end his pain, end the pain of losing his brother, give him strength back, sort of situation. I think part of him was doing it for that reason. Another part, I think it was because in the books, he has a dad who's, sick and dying, so he could use Louis' house for that. They would have a lot of land, they would have a lot of money, and they would have slaves to feed off of. Lestat found him after his brother died. In the show, however, they meet before. Lestat finds Louis almost shanking his brother after they get in a fight in the street, and he's like, I want to know him. And they slowly grow closer and closer until they have a very intimate moment. And they grow close, and they become friends, even closer than that. And then his brother jumps off the roof rather than falling. I believe in the book he trips over the railing. I don't think he jumps off. In the show, he jumps off a roof. You could tell during the show that there was something off with his brother, mentally. He would talk to himself like he was talking to things, and supposedly he talked to birds. So there was a little bit wrong there. So they made it more like he did it on purpose, like he's jumping. But it still like broke him, and it made him feel guilty, and his whole family blamed him for it, even though it wasn't his fault. And so he was still at the point of, I think I should die. So in a similar situation, Lestat did turn Louis in situations where he was suicidal and felt like the world was crushing in on him situation, but Lestat and Louis had known each other a lot longer in the show than they did in the book. And in the book, he's turned on the steps of his plantation home in Lestat's arms. And in the show, he's turned in a church after a very gruesome scene that doesn't happen in the book, where Lestat murders 2 priests, which, going to hell for that. I mean, you're already going to hell, but like, you're going to hell for that one. Oh, shit. In the show, it's a lot more romantic. Lestat turns him, and he talks about love and how society crushes in on him, and that he deserves to be free, and that he can give him freedom, and he can love him, and they can have a life together, which is adorable. And then he turns him. Which comes to my last point of this video, is that in the book, it is thinly veiled romance between Louis and Lestat. The way that Anne Rice writes it, it's obvious that they like each other, that there's more going on than just 2 bros. But they never clearly say that they're boyfriends, that they're lovers, that they're married, that they're anything other than just companions in the vampire life. It is very romanticized when he gets turned. There are certain areas between Lestat and Louis where you're like, they're in love with each other. But they never kiss. They never outright say, I love you. So, like, it doesn't, you don't know. You're like, yeah, they are. But they don't explicitly explain that's what's happening. In the show, they just decided to skip that and went, yeah, they're in a relationship. They're lovers, bro. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it, because the movie, that was one thing that my biggest gripe with the movie was that they cut out all of the gay. All of it. Like, there was one moment where Louis almost kissed Armand at the end. There are moments between Louis and Lestat that could be considered a little out there. But both actors were straight and both were uncomfortable with doing stuff like that, which is like, get different actors then. I know it's Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, but come on. That's what the characters are. Just let them be gay. In reality, Lestat is not. Lestat's like, I would say bisexual, but he's more of like a, I believe it's demisexual? No, it's not demi. Is it? It's the one where, like, it doesn't matter what's in your pants, it's your personality. But I don't know if he even goes for personality. He mostly goes for looks. He's like, you're pretty. I'm gonna do you. Louis, on the other hand, in the show is completely gay. As far as we know. As far as the 4 episodes can tell, he's queer. That's how it is. As far as we know in the 4 episodes, he's gay. I haven't seen anything that makes me think he isn't. Which I like. That's a good change. In the book, once you read it, you're like, yeah, okay, they're gay for each other. They don't explicitly say it, but you can kind of tell just by the way it's written that they are. But this was the 70s. You couldn't get away with as much stuff as you can today. So maybe that is why it's thinly veiled, but not explicitly said. In the show, they just went outright and said lovers. And I think that really adds to their characters, because in the books, you can kind of tell they are, but the show lets you have that, because the movie didn't. They kiss, they hold hands, they share a coffin. In the movie, they didn't. In the book, they do. And they're basically like a married couple, and then when Claudia comes around, it's their daughter, and they act like a married couple. The way they act like a mom and dad. And they may fight, and Lestat may have a lot of issues, but there's something that draws Louis to him, whether it's toxic or not, which it totally is toxic, but that's my opinion. They love each other, and they don't hide their love for each other. It's not something where you're like, are they in love? No, they are. And that is something that I like, is because in the book, there is no turmoil with Louis, because it's not outright said that Louis is gay and in love with Lestat, so he doesn't have inner turmoil of being a gay man in the 1800s. While in the show, he has turmoil of being a black gay man, which is not a great combo in America in the 1900s. So being a black man in the 1900s was difficult enough, but being a gay black man, you're gonna have so many problems. So his inner turmoil of being himself really added to when he was turned, because he wanted, Lestat said he could give him that. And I think that was really sweet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you would like a part 2 when more of the show comes out, I can say more differences, maybe similarities, between the show and the book. If you would like a video where I compare the movie to the book, and the movie to the show, which I kind of did in this video, I totally can do that as well. I kind of enjoy these because I'm a fangirl at heart, like a giant one. So being able to just fangirl a little bit and then talk about what I noticed in differences and similarities and stuff, very nice. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back again on Thursday with another True Crime Thursday, and Monday with whatever I decide to post. Alright guys, I'll see you later.